No matter what framework you work in, testing with dates is a pain in the butt, and that includes Java and C# and just about every one of them out there, including JavaScript and Node. What do we do when we have to work with dates and test with dates? That's just what we have to do now. Each application needs to have some form of expiration. So for that, I'm going to have a valid until date. But what am I going to do? Well, when you have to think about something, you can use the skip keyword. That tells Mocha, hey, no matter what I put here, skip this test. You can use this for when you want to think about things or when you'd normally just comment it out, as I am prone to do quite often. And before I run this, I want to point out that I'm working in my membership application Git branch. So anyway, I run Mocha, and I got one pending test. There it is. I have no failure. It just is going to sit there pending because I put skip on it. That's good. Skip has a counterpart, and it is called only. This is great for debugging. So if you have a problem test and you want to just focus on it and not have everything else run, you can use only, and that will isolate that test and only run that test. So in our case, we don't have an assertion in there, so oddly it's passing. Anyway, I'm going to tell this to skip because we need to solve our date issue. And for this, I'm going to use Moment.js. Moment is one of those modules where if you have an application that has any kind of dates, then you expect it to work, you're going to want to install it. This is just pretty much non-negotiable. You got to have something like Moment to work with dates in JavaScript. Here is why. It handles formatting, it handles date math, it handles sugary fun syntax stuff where you can see if something starts at a certain time or it's at the end of a day. You can have, as I mentioned, subtract and add for date math, and you can also specify certain points in time, and you can see if something is between 2 points in time, etc., etc. Moment is absolutely critical for every JavaScript project. For us, in particular, it's going to help us with our expiration. So let's head back over to our membership application. And right at the top here, after we do our extend, I am going to interrogate valid until. I want to make sure it is always present. Here, I am setting the valid until variable equal to a moment object either way. I'm checking to see if valid until is sent in on the args. That would be a date or a string or something that moment can understand. If it is sent in, I'm going to have moment parse it. And that's the first argument there. I just call moment directly with args.validUntil. Otherwise, I'm going to say moment add 10 days to today. That's that last statement right there. And that's basically saying that this membership application will be valid until 10 days from now. That's how moment works. So this means that moment is going to be deep in the guts of my project, and I am okay with that because it's easier to work with than JavaScript dates. All right, well, let's test this thing out. So I'm going to create a brand new membership application, and I'm going to pass in valid until, and this is going to pass in just a straight up string with a date that's in the past, and down below I'm going to assert that our app is expired. And that brings to mind that I don't have an expired function. So let's go back and write that. And what I'll do is I'll just use moment and say this.validUntil is before today. And in case you're wondering, if you just invoke moment, as I've done, that defaults to today's date. This is the power of moment. I'm not using JavaScript dates. I'm using moment directly here, and it's very much a part of my application. And it helps me throughout my app, so I don't need to worry about weird date situations. I can just invoke the moment methods as I need to. Hooray for me. Okay, well, let's see if moment's going to work the way I want it to. Heading back over to our console and running Mocha. Oh boy. Well, I guess not. Okay, well, valid until can't read that property. Looks like something is failing somewhere. So let's use our Mocha chops, and I'm going to isolate this test by using only. You saw me use only before, but this is one good case as to why you'd want to use it. And let's run it. And deprecation warning. Moment construction falls back to JS date. I see. So it looks like if you go chase down that issue, number 1407 on Moment.js, it's basically saying, we don't know what time zone you're in. We don't know if this is a UTC date or what we're going to do with a string. So don't use a string, okay? Use a new date object. So for this, I'll just use date.parse. That should solve that problem. Let's go back and run our test, and it's passing, which is sort of surprising because I got an error before. And that error seems to have gone away. Did I solve it? I don't know. Let's go back and check all of our tests now. I'll go back to the code here and remove only, and that'll allow me to run the entire test suite. And wait a minute, there's that same error. What's going on here? Let's head back up and see what test this error is happening on. If I go all the way up to the top here, you see a pattern? Email is omitted. Height is omitted. First is omitted. All the things where I said that a given property was omitted are failing, but the other ones seem to be succeeding. Seems to be a problem that is not necessarily related to moment.js. Let's go back to our code here and see what I might have done. This is a typical way that I'm passing in arguments, but for the arguments where I'm saying something is omitted, I just don't pass anything at all. Aha! I think I know what the problem is. Moment is expecting to interrogate the args. And if there's no args, there's no valid until, and yeah, that will cause an error. So what I need to do here is I need to check if there's args, if they're not undefined. If args are undefined, it'll return false, and so that OR statement will trip over to the right side there, and it'll set args to an object. That should cause our test to pass, and they do. Reading the results over, passed the valid until date, otherwise known as expired. In fact, I even used the word expired down below for my function, so let's change that. And inside of here as well, I want to make sure that the isValid function reflects the new expired validator. And hooray!